One of the most valuable lessons I've learned over the past decade in real estate is how essential it is to learn from the industry professionals. That's why I'm gathering professionals from across the country to share their experiences with you. This is a Gregerson's podcast, where experience and passion come together in the world of real estate. I'm Casey Gregerson, your host, and I'm very excited you're tuning into today's episode. As always, if you have questions for me or any of our guests, please reach out to me at casey@gregersonproperties.com. Now let's get started with today's podcast.
Perfect. All right, we're up and recording. Good to see you today, David. We just gave you an awesome introduction. So yeah, man, let's get started. So I really want to just hear, let's kick it off with what is your original why and how has that changed over time, right? Everybody's got a why, but it evolves, right? So I'd love to hear yours.
Absolutely, man. So my original why was in high school when some kids had really nice sports cars. And luckily, I had a car. Very thankful for that. But there was something about that. I was like, how do they have nicer stuff? What are they thinking that's getting them to that point? Or what are their parents doing and thinking? And how can I adopt those thoughts so that I can have some really nice stuff too? So it was very materialistic, not even going to lie. And I did have a dream car, right? That was part of the goal. But it's changed over time. But that was the initial goal, is just I just really was inspired by cool stuff, specifically cars.
Nice. What year was that, roughly?
I graduated high school in 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, similar. Okay. All right. Cool, man. So then, and I love this part. So reading kind of your bio and hearing about you, you read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2016, which is right around, I think it might have been 2015 for me, and totally a big catalyst. But yeah, I'm just curious, what about that turned you on to real estate and got it rolling for you?
It took a few years for those ideas to percolate. My high school band director actually gave it to me at our high school graduation. I totally forgot. I read it through college, but then it wasn't until after college where I had worked for somebody that had rental properties, and I was like, why do you have rental properties instead of stocks? And he was like, well, if you manage them right, you can actually make sure that they always continue to cash flow, unlike the stock market that goes up and down. And so I was putting two and two together. I'd heard Warren Buffett say, never lose money. That's rule number one. Rule number two is never forget rule number one. And then put two and two together. I was like, let me reread this Rich Dad Poor Dad thing. Then I played the cash flow game, and I saw how you can get out of the rat race if you buy rental properties that cash flow and you keep using that cash to buy more cash flowing assets. And eventually you can earn enough passive income that you don't need to work in order to live and cover your basic living expenses. So that was the next phase of my motivation.
Nice. So yeah, what was your next step after that? Kind of how you started to progress it?
Oh boy, it was a roller coaster, because I certainly was encouraged to see somebody in real life with rental properties. But at the same time, it was kind of discouraging when he said, well, in 2008, I bought these properties and that's how they were able to cash flow. Said for sale, the rent payment would not cover the mortgage payment. So nothing was cash flowing. So I felt pretty disheartened. I went to a local real estate meetup though, and I saw a lot of people who were finding discounted properties. And I took their advice to find my own discounted property by looking for rundown houses, looking up who owns the property, and sending mail to the owner asking if they want an offer on their house. And so I set off to do that and find about 100 to 200 houses like that were distressed.
Nice. Driving for dollars from the start, man.
Yeah, it's called Driving for Dollars. I always felt like that was kind of a goofy, lame name, but everyone knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what market was that in that you first started doing that?
I was living in Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And so that was just you, huh? You would just go around, get as many addresses, and start marketing to those people? Was initial?
Yeah, so I met somebody that came to Indianapolis once a month to buy 30 properties per month. And that just blew my mind. I was like, who the heck comes and buys 30 properties every month? What do you mean? But really, they were buying properties that they could sell to turnkey. And the way that they were finding properties were they would go to the auctions, and then they would host a meetup once a month for real estate wholesalers, people who were just getting into it. They wanted to find a property and they wanted to actually, flip $500 into $10,000 by finding a discounted property and then flipping it really quick to Brittany, this girl who was coming to buy 30 properties per month. And what I later found out is called wholesaling, where you don't need any of your money or cash to make that type of flip. And so anyway, that was really the next step. And she told me, rewind. So I was trying to find one of those properties, okay? And she told me I should probably find 100 rundown houses. And I was on my way. I probably found 40 or 50, but I missed out on what could have been an amazing first deal. I drove by this property I'd written down 3 weeks ago, Someone else was working on it and I looked it up. Sure enough, somebody bought it for a price that would have made sense. I mean, Brittany had this chart that was like, I can pay this much in this zip code. So I was like, this made sense. I could have made $10,000 on this deal. But I had not been following up. I was having too much fun driving around. So basically, I built this really basic tool because I'm a software developer that would allow me to click a pin on the map, tell me who owns it, and then send a piece of mail to the owner. So it was helping with my follow-up problem. And then I was like super pumped when Brittany heard about this app. And I was like, she's like, hey, well, I'll spend $1,000 to try any new marketing. And I was like, worth a mail. And I ended up finding my first deal, both with this little widget that turned out, I ended up calling it Deal Machine and making it an app that others could use too. But that's kind of how it started, how I got my first deal, and how I even put it on the App Store. It was just for Brittany.
No, so this is cool. This is what I wanted to dig into. So what that all look like? Because had you literally created the app at the time, or I mean, what did it look like from the like groundbreaking? It was when you were actually using it yourself, and just you using it was just an app you just created on your phone. Just for you?
I mean, it was like super basic. It didn't look great. I'm a software developer, but I had never built a mobile app. And so what I did was I had just brought this map, kind of like a puzzle piece, is like, let me give it a map and let me pin an address. And then from there, it didn't even look up the owner's address, but it just created a spreadsheet. And then I had like an assistant come and look that up on the Marion County, Indiana Property Records website. But eventually we direct connected with that website. And then we bought data so it worked everywhere. And I had to do that because people started talking about it and it didn't work in their city. So I had to pull the trigger, license data, because I couldn't connect with 3,000 counties directly on all on my own that quickly. But that's then what allowed it to kind of spread via word of mouth. And it really took off in like 2018, like 2 years after I made the first line of code for myself.
2 years. Okay. That's what I was wondering the timeline of it. So, and even before while you were looking for those first wholesale deals, you were using that app that you created, and it obviously grew to what it is now. But from the start, huh? It wasn't like most guys were probably just me. I'm just driving around writing addresses in an Excel sheet or doing something to capture them. But you were like literally had the app working from day one, huh?
No. Well, day one was paper. Day one was paper. I spent several months looking for properties, but I wasn't reaching out to anyone because I was having too much fun looking for properties. And also at the time, you couldn't send like one-off piece of mail. So I had to also build up enough list of properties before I could use a service to send mail. So by the time I had written the app, I was probably like 6 months in, man, using that paper. But I didn't have any results yet because I wasn't following up. I wasn't reaching out to property owners.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. So yeah, and that was kind of my next question is like, when did you have that aha moment and you kind of talked about it, but was that the moment when you said Brittany was like, hey, I'll pay $1,000 for it. I can monetize this. Or when did you like, hey, I can make this into a business?
Well, I realized somebody like Brittany, who's really trying to buy a lot of discounted properties, $1,000 in marketing was a drop in the bucket to her. It was worth it to her to discover a new thing that would give her an edge. And that was really amazing to me because I was not a salesperson. I did not sell baseball cards before I was 15. I do not identify as a salesperson. I'm a very analytical person, and I, just never had sold anything, like growing up. And the fact that it was so easy was like, holy shit, I need to do something so that she can do this and I can complete this sale. Because at this point, I'm just taking an order, and it's obviously something that she's interested in. Probably someone else would be interested in it too. So that's when I got motivated and it clicked. I was like, this thing is something that's valuable to other people, not just her, not just me.
Heck yeah. No, that makes sense. Huh. So you get it going, and then like, so you were talking about the automation and like the follow-up, because you were like, hey, I weren't following up with these people.
Yeah.
So what did that look like to build that out, and how did, that impact?
It was the most simple thing, and it still is. All you need to do is add properties and send mail. I was sending mail again because I preferred that. I preferred to only talk with people who respond to my outbound message rather than talk to everybody cold calling who's going to be really like emotionally tolling on me when most of them don't want to talk to me. So that was a strategy I picked for myself, knowing myself that I would prefer to talk with somebody who's responding to my postcard rather than cold calling all these people. And so that was it. It was just a map it would look up the address with the county records, and then it used a third-party company that I connected with to go ahead and handle the printing and the mailing of the actual mail. And then it would just repeat every 21 days because I felt like that was a really good amount of time, good frequency to balance your costs compared to staying top of mind. And that was exactly how it started, just plain and simple like that. It was the same postcard for every property, except the app was designed that I would take a picture and then that picture would be on that piece of mail that went to the owner. Because a lot of times these owners don't even know what condition their house is in. And the response I got was like, hey, I could tell you put a lot of time into this because you took an actual photo. Like I could tell this isn't from Google. You were actually here and took this photo. And so that's why I called you instead of somebody else who sent me generic looking mail.
Yep. Love that. Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. So we started using this, I think, in 2019. And I just had, at the time, I was just trying to find more deals and I had some interns. And so I'm in Houston investing up in Wyoming. And I had some interns, wanted them to find properties. So it's like, just start driving just driving and finding properties. And then we got them on the app. I was like, okay, well, the Steel Machine app is a great way for us to keep track of where you're driving by and then pinning the properties. Because, yeah, it was the same issue. Like, hey, they're driving by, but how are we keeping track of them? And one of my favorite features was, hey, take a picture while you're there so you can get, A, I can see what the house looks like. B, they can when you postcard.
Well, what it evolved into was as you do more deals, as you earn more money, driving around looking for those rundown houses becomes a task that it's better just to pay somebody $15 an hour to do. And once you've paid somebody to do that, the pictures that they're including with their submissions are critical to making sure they're adding the types of properties that you want them to. So it becomes a very good coaching tool as well as a great marketing tool.
Heck yeah, good point. Yeah, I always say inspect what you expect. That's a great way. You're seeing it, marketing it. That's awesome. So on that cadence though, you didn't really have any other marketing channels going other than just hitting them every 21 days with a postcard initially?
Oh yeah, correct. I just keep it plain and simple. There's way too many things that you could spread way too thin and get zero results. Biggest challenge that I see, and we've helped people close over 10,000 deals in all 50 states now. The biggest challenge I see is when, especially somebody brand new tries 5 different things at once. They might do a little bit of cold calling, a little bit of mailing, but not enough of any one thing to get the result that they should. And so that was I've always been a big fan of focus. It's why I've continued to focus on Deal Machine for the past, since 2016, instead of starting another app or starting, a lot of people will be like, well, I run 12 businesses. I just run 1, I guess 2, if you count the rental properties that I have, but that's it. And I've really believed in staying focused. And for me, I think that's an advantage because it allows me to see things all the way through.
Interesting. So digging in then, you've got a cadence of following up, but what does the follow-up look like because people will call right on a postcard, but then there's a whole like, are they ready to sell and when will they be ready to sell? How did that kind of evolve for you? And do you do that within Deal Machine or you do that within another?
Yeah, I
CRM?
just approach it in the most practical way. Is if they call me back and he said, I want an offer on my house, then I would go to that. I would just say like, can I come at 6:00? And then I took a bunch of pictures there. I asked him like, why is he selling? Oh, why is this part of the house look different? Oh, what's that FM radio toilet paper combo holder that you have in the wall there? I've never seen one of those. And then he said, like, how much do you want on your house? How much you're going to offer me? And I really was like, I don't know. But I will tell you in 24 hours. I'll get back with you in 24 hours. So then I went home, ran my comps, did my estimation costs for rehabs like 3 times. And then I lowered my offer just to give myself an extra buffer, even though I felt very uncomfortable doing so. And I presented the offer the next day in an analytical way. I was like, look, this is best case scenario, perfect condition. These are the rehab costs. This is what I'm going to make and probably bump into when unexpected things happen. And here's why I can offer you what I'm offering you. And he accepted it, which was amazing. And then I did my first deal. That felt great.
Awesome.
The app, I think you might have been asking something about the app too. So let me clarify. When you get a call, you can pull up the lead in the app. You can leave a note. You could say like leave a task for myself. You can change the status for I'm marketing to this to this guy called me back or this woman called me back. And so one of the future developments is we'll like integrate a phone number to the mail piece within Deal Machine. So all those analytics are tracked automatically for you. But right now they'll just call back whatever number you put on your mail piece. And so that's a future development that we're excited about this coming year at Deal Machine.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You went a couple directions. Got me excited there too. But let's go with the rental property. So at what point did you, so you mentioned you wanted to do rental properties. Were all these deals that you were, I mean, how did you kind of balance now you're finding deals, maybe you were selling them to Brittany or somebody else, wholesaling, or maybe you were keeping as rentals. How did that evolution look like? Because some people start rentals first, some people start wholesaling first.
I've always started with the idea that rental properties could help you escape the rat race through reading the Rich Dad book and playing the cash flow game and talking to my boss who had 5 cash flowing rental properties. And so my mission at the beginning, from the beginning, was always to build passive income. And so I really fully planned on keeping my W-2 job and funneling that money into buying more and more rentals. Once I figured out you could get a property at a discount, then I really became very interested in that. And I did a couple of deals that were technically free houses because I got it at such a good discount. I was able to fix it up and it was worth so much more than I had put into it for purchase and repairs. And so then I kind of focused on doing that. Again, I haven't wholesaled the deal because I was like, this is an incredible deal. I could take $10,000, $20,000 now, maybe, or, I could fix it up and I could get 50,000 in equity. I could be closer to my passive income goal and I could get all that cash back. And that's what I just continued doing is I decided to keep every single deal that I did because I thought it was a good deal and I wanted to build that passive income.
Nice. And still to this day, are you wholesaling many of them or you're just keeping most of them?
Well, so I have 8 properties. In 2018, Deal Machine took off. We went from doing $20,000 in revenue to $1.3 million in revenue in 1 year, and then $6 million in revenue the year after that. And so I stopped focusing on finding discounted properties myself because we were focused solely on making sure other people could find discounted properties with Deal Machine. And so for that reason, I actually have only done, I've done like 10 deals. Okay. I have 8 rentals now, but that was my path. I'm very interested now though, that it's been 5 years and I haven't paid much attention to the rental property since 2018. And now I've looked back and I'm like, man, this property that used to rent for $1,800 is now renting for $2,800. I bought it for like $190 and now it's worth $350. Holy cow, there's like 8 of these that have done that. So why don't I start buying more properties? And now I'm kind of becoming more interested in it. But you got to realize like with the app growing so fast, like that was just like full focus for me. Now I'm very interested after seeing how the rentals have performed it over, the course of only 4 or 5 years. And I'm kind of more in tune with that now as a great opportunity.
Man, that's, and just to your point you said earlier, you're like, focus on one thing, right? Focus on one thing that's driving it. And you clearly did that from start to like finding your deals and focusing on one way to do it. And then this took off and I mean, totally makes sense. And I'm glad you alluded to the fact that like, then the beauty of rental properties is you just set them and forget them pretty much, right? I mean, I'm sure you did some. Did you use property management companies or did you just manage it?
I just manage it myself via text message. So if the toilet is clogged, then I ask the tenant if they've tried plunging it, and if they say, yes, we did, then I'll call a plumber to come, drain the main line, right? Do the plumbing snake. And I never really set foot in the house. So been pretty nice and pretty low effort, actually. One of the benefits of buying it at a discount, buying the property at a discount, fixing it up and creating a lot of value in the property is you pretty much have like a rent or a maintenance free rental property for 10 years because everything's brand new. There's not a ton of stuff that's probably going to break.
Yes. Love that when you're fixing stuff up and redoing it. And it's not that same case if you buy an existing property, an existing rental from somebody else that you've got all that deferred maintenance. So that's a huge one when it comes to just really, and you're running your performa, your estimates, right? On like how's this property going to perform? It's a completely different, it's a different percentage, right? For your operating expenses, or I mean, if you're trying to estimate them, project them. Yeah, totally.
And yeah, I mean, I was like pretty loose with the pro formas and stuff. I really just bought all my properties for like, I was like, hey, like let me just get like the 1% of the purchase price for rent every month. And that was kind of like a loose, estimation method for me.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's still one we use to this day, and it's fun. It's honestly like I think a controversial metric to where some people are like, oh, that's just a newbie thing. It's just you can't even get that in some markets, but there's some markets where like, hey, if you're getting 1%, you can save a lot of brain damage. Just the deal's going to cash flow if you hit that metric. I mean, there's other variables.
Now with the interest rates a little higher, you might want to actually check, what the payment's going to be. But yeah, as a general rule of thumb, I have found that to line up some good deals for me.
Yeah, 100%. So I got a note in here about the Polites. So that was a family that's done over $500,000 with Deal Machine. So like, what is it about you've talked about how you use it, but how specifically are they using Deal Machine to just crush it?
Man, they actually hired their mom to go out and drive. And every time they closed the deal, they'd give her $1,000 and they'd take a picture of her with all that cash in her hands. And they were doing some direct to seller marketing. Like they were pulling like absentee owner lists in North Carolina, and it's a husband and wife, right? So, Dedrick, he didn't think that, driving around was a good idea, but Crystal said, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to get my mom involved. And Dedrick was answering the phones, and he couldn't believe that so many of their calls were coming from these driving for dollars leads. And so Crystal was like, see, told you. And they're trying to build a big rental property portfolio as well. And so they were able to acquire a lot of properties that have a lot of equity because they were finding them at a discount. They were finding distressed property owners that couldn't list it on the market for sale because maybe they were a hoarder and they were a private person and they didn't want to clean it up or have the ability to clean it up. And they also didn't want to market it as is that way. They'd prefer to sell it directly to an investor and just, be done with it. So that was how they used it. Is they really hired drivers rather than just looking for the properties themselves.
Got it. And that's another thing I was going to ask is like, what is it about this form of marketing that's so effective, right? Because you can cold call, you can text, you can do Facebook ads, Google ads, pay-per-click, SEO, all different radio, TV. But anything else you would add to what just really makes this marketing channel so potent?
So one of the things that makes looking for distressed properties, driving for dollars so potent is because all the other lists and marketing methods can be done from a computer with a click. And driving for dollars is a slight barrier because you have to go out and look for the actual property. It's something that not a lot of people are willing to do, but that extra effort generates a list that you can't easily buy. Plus, the property is distressed. So those two things combined create a great formula for getting a lot of people that do end up wanting to sell their house or get an offer on their house because of those two things. And then they're not talking with a lot of other investors, which allows you to have better control over what price that they're willing and interested to accept.
Barry, yeah, I think hit it on the head. Couldn't agree more because, it's such a niche list and, the barrier to entry, big time. Yeah, anytime there's a barrier to entry, you're just getting that much quality leads. Good stuff. Hey, so tell me about Josh and Dave. So these were friends of yours and turned into be kind of business partners?
So I own the business 50%. Dave owns the business 50%. Josh came along after the business was founded and he's like, hey, you guys are selling this for $50 a month. That's really cool. I bet we could sell an annual plan for $200 a month by packing it with a couple more features that allowed you to hire drivers. And we said, well, we don't have money to pay you, Josh, but if you can create that plan and sell it yourself, you can earn a commission on any of those types of plans that you've sold. And so Josh came on and did that. He's actually moved on from the company now, but he was with us for several years and really did create that elite level plan that's more for the teams that the Polites, for example, had a lot of success with.
Man, that is cool. So that was a feature, that kind of came in. And that's another game changer too. Again, I learned about that one in a mastermind a couple years ago. We were talking about Deal Machine. They're like, did you know Deal Machine, you can actually go hire drivers?
Which mastermind?
It was Game Changers. Actually, they're out of Austin, James Hodges.
No way.
And I was in Austin. Actually.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was talking to Mike. I forget his name. Mike. Wow, I wish I could get his last name, but this guy out of Virginia, he was the one talking about it.
Cool.
And they use it a lot too. I'll get you Mike's name. I forget it. Older guy. I've been in real estate forever.
I'll have to pay him a call and say thanks for referring.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, cool. So so as a business owner, kind of more broad question, how do you balance overworking yourself? Maybe part one, and then also curious how you balance what to reinvest back in the company and then what to kind of keep.
A huge breakthrough for me this past year was doing the 75 hard, which requires two 45-minute workouts. And I would get up and I would do my first workout, and then I would work. And then I would make sure that I do my second workout at 5 o'clock every day, so I can just get up from my desk or get up from whatever I'm doing and go do that workout, and then have the rest of the evening to do whatever I need to do. So scheduling that time to stop working and get up and do something that I need to work in has been really critical and refreshing for me, so that I come back to work the next day feeling amazing. My business partner also he had a kid and a wife when we first started the business. So he was always like, dude, I got to protect my time with my family. And so I'm single. That wasn't really in the top of my mind. But as we started hiring people to respect his wishes, we all said, hey, no Slacks, no messages, no emails after 5 p.m. unless it's an emergency. We're going to use the send later option. So that way you're not in dinner and get a Slack, and then mentally you're away from your family or whatever you're doing. So that's been something that has been a value of ours for quite some time, since almost the very beginning. Those are, two things in the way that we handle that at Deal Machine.
That's super cool, man. I love that as a business owner. Like, just because balancing that stuff at night, because you can't not look, but you like the instant alert on your phone when it's needed, but not at those times, just to send later. That's a great feature.
You get a lead that comes in at 7 p.m., you should probably take that. But our philosophy at Deal Machine is, well, is there a service that we could use to take those calls at that time? Or is there something we could set up so if we do have to work in the evening, we don't have to do that? And so those are just two suggestions, the way we think about it, because we know sometimes you have to. But our goal is to do like a retrospective later and answer that question. How can we change what we're doing so that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah. So follow up to that too. And better way to answer the kind of second part is like, so yeah, you were initially going to use any extra income you had, or get creative in buying properties at a discount to go buy out and buy more properties, right? So that's how you were growing to get passive. But then Deal Machine takes off. You guys are just crushing it in revenue. So then I'm just curious what does it look like for you to reinvest, either pulling and it could be percentages, right? Maybe what do you started to, I'm just curious, because you guys have done well, and then hey, are you excited to go redeploy that into, or maybe you went and paid off all your rental properties, but I'm just curious because you think like a real estate investor, and then you've done well in terms of generating cash. What's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of my 20s, in order to be a millionaire, in my experience, you've got to make decisions that are opposite of what other people are doing at that time. And for me, I was doing everything that was the opposite of my friends. My friends were graduating from engineering school. They were buying their first house. They were also buying a new car to park in the driveway. I lived with roommates. I drove a 10-year-old Honda Accord until the transmission broke. And then I replaced it with another 10-year-old Honda Accord. And I did that. I didn't go on trips. A lot of my college friends after college, they would go on trips. They would go see other college games and travel for this or that. And I'd have to opt out because, man, I was trying to save 50% of everything I made at my W-2 job to funnel into something that was really important to me, which was investing. And I knew time was on my side. So those were some examples of how I did the opposite of what everyone else was doing for several years. So a lot of years of good decisions. Then when I finally did have a lot of rapid growth at Deal Machine, I will say at first, I really had to go the other way. I had to get out some built up, pent up energy, and I had to spend some money. So I got a 6,000 square foot house downtown Indianapolis, and I paid for a Ferrari cash. I bought art to go in the house. It was really cool. So thankfully, that all happened, and that kind of scratched the itch. And then I am interested and have been interested in putting some of that money into real estate now, because I think that that's what is just kind of been the natural pendulum swing to balance out most of my 20s.
Yeah, it's good. No, that's great perspective. I like it because it's it swung. As you said, the pendulum, great way to describe it. Cool, man. Well, go. Yeah, I'll keep it rolling. So these are a couple more kind of more personal, lifestyle stuff. But so you did 2 Habitat for Humanity builds this year. Tell me about the Habitat. And I've heard Habitat can be a buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a shock to me, because I figured for Habitat, they needed to get the house for free or whatever. And they said, no, the real estate market's actually gotten competitive over the years, that they are willing to pay really well to wholesalers that want to sell their deals to them, because they have no other way of finding great deals. So they've found other ways to finance those deals, mainly through just getting corporations to sponsor, like big corporations. In Indianapolis, Eli Lilly sponsors the local Habitat chapter. So that's where they get their money. That is why they can spend money, good money, to reward wholesalers for finding deals. A lot of wholesalers just don't know that. And so in every market, pretty much there's a Habitat for Humanity that you could send your deals to, and that could be a great buyer for you. We really felt it was time to give back because we help people on both sides of real estate transactions, right? The power of real estate can be creating wealth, and the power that we can provide somebody who wants to sell their home is that speed and convenience. And we work all day behind our computers, most of the time with our minds, but getting to actually help somebody, a real specific person, with our hands side by side, seeing what financial education that person's going through, seeing how they've helped build other people's houses to then receive their own, was really cool. And it was a fun way to give back. And our team really liked the physical angle of real estate for a day. And I think it made them appreciate the way we approach things, working as like knowledge workers rather than hammering nails and painting closets. But we really had a good time, and we learned a lot too about how Habitat sets people up for success and ensures that they're also giving back before receiving. So that was fun.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I love the aspect of just being a part of Habitat for Humanity and your team getting into it. It's something we've thought a lot about, but I never thought about, hey, it could actually could be a business relationship too. So that's super cool. So you talked about the fitness thing earlier. I meant to follow up on that, but I've also had a note for it. Tell me that again. So when did you start kind of that? You said it was 45 minutes in the morning and then 45 minutes afternoon?
Yeah. So the 75 hard is a mental toughness challenge. You have to do like 10 things every day, including 2 45-minute workouts. And if you miss one thing, you have to start over from day 0 and go all the way back up to 75. So that's pretty much what I did to start off my fitness journey. But I took it several steps further. I got even more serious with working out, and I've lost 35 pounds. I got 6-pack abs, and I really enjoyed that since I moved to Austin, and everybody's very fit here, and it's so warm year round. People are always, walking around the lakes, the trails, and in the heat. Everybody's just wearing swim trunks. So it was really good and nice to be able to do that as well without feeling like as, self-conscious. And it just felt great. The discipline just gave me so much context for like I'll tell you what, I took a challenge. I've never really marketed, real estate investing. I've never really marketed my own business, right? Most people have shared it. As you said, you heard about it through somebody at a mastermind. So a personal challenge that I'm taking is learning marketing, learning how to market, how you can earn a living, how you can build wealth through real estate investing. And so I took this challenge of, I need to post, if you post stuff on the internet, people will see it for free. How amazing is that? Before, social media, that wouldn't have been available. There was no place to post something and have thousands of people see it for free, right? You would have had to pay for a billboard. You would have had to pay for a TV commercial. But that's the world we live in today. And I realized that. So I took a challenge 16 times per day over 4 different platforms every day for 30 days. And a lot of those posts didn't get a lot of traction. And I was really discouraged. I was like, man, nobody likes me. And I kind of then thought about it in the fitness context. And I was like, shit, I really was discouraged after the 75 days of 75 hard were over. And I still didn't look as good as I wanted to. And I was like, then I just gave up trying to get a result. I just kept doing what I needed to do with my trainer. And then I was like, well, then I got the 6-pack abs. Then I lost the 35 pounds. And it wasn't until I forgot about the result and just started doing what I needed to do. So anyway, that's translated to business in my social media challenge because it was kind of brutal to just eat crow, not knowing how to do stuff right. And really the challenge was just to get you to start doing the things that are going to make you learn over time. But just doing the posts is what I should feel good about, not how many likes it gets. And so I will say, dude, yesterday I had one of the best posts that I've ever had, got 13,000 organic views in a few hours. And just to put it in perspective, most previous to that were getting like 200, And then I was like, aha, this was a formula that worked well. I'm going to do another one really similar. And then sure enough, that one got the same organic reach. I was like, yes, like finally, I've got a breakthrough. I've got a win, and it's been about 30 days, but I felt like the fitness discipline has really helped me in business in that specific way.
Yeah. So you're just saying even though you're not seeing the breakthroughs, it's really just grinding through, eventually seeing it. And because on the fitness one, was it like eventually what did click it? Was it the fact that the personal trainer kind of finally guided you to get you to do the exact right thing, or was it just it finally just had a compound over and over? And
I think that it just takes longer than you expect sometimes.
yeah, good point. And to your point about the
And
marketing,
when you're really obsessed with the result, it makes you feel bad when you're not getting it. But if you flip your mind to like, man, I just love getting up every day and getting this done. It feels good. Then you can just do that as long as it takes. You know, you don't get anxious. You don't get depressed that you're not getting your result. You're just happy to be doing it. And then that allows you to go long enough to figure out, oh, well, now I got the result.
here you go. I like it. Reminds me of Ed Milet, right? Just one more, right? One more. Just keep doing one more, and then eventually it happens, right?
I don't know Ed Milet, and what you just said is the only thing I know about him. But it sounds like one more is a healthy way to think about it. It's kind of like every no that you get's just closer to a yes, right? It's flipping the way that you're thinking about things. If I am reading Ed Milet's mind right, is just changing how you're thinking about things and getting excited to do one more.
Yeah, I'll send you a quick little reel. You'll like it. It's pretty inspiring. He wrote a whole book on it, and it's just about always doing. Just try one more. You think you can't, or you're not ready to get up the next day. Just do one more, and get you through the hard times, get you through the battles. But cool. Well, you talked about Austin earlier, so yeah, how's that been? How's the relocation been, maybe personal and business wise, from Indianapolis to Austin?
In February last year, it was 80 degrees and sunny. And so when I came on that trip, I just stayed for 6 weeks because I didn't want to go back to Indianapolis, cold, cloudy, 15-degree Fahrenheit, you know? And so it is exactly the same way right now, which makes me very happy. I will say this, most of our environment at Deal Machine was work from home. Instead of doing tours of my properties when they need to be rented out, I got these Show Mojo lock boxes that allow somebody to show themselves the property, inputting their credit card and their driver's license into Show Mojo. So that's an enhancement that I've made. I still property manage via text message, so I don't need to go in the property. And Austin's great for doing outdoor workouts. I've basically made it my mission not to be in my apartment like any night of the week. I have something to do. So, dude, I joined sand volleyball. I knocked on all my neighbors' doors and I invited them to a game night. I took a storytelling class. I've taken an improv comedy class. I'm about to do a stand-up open mic comedy. And there's like all kinds of comedians here. There's a lake. I learned how to wake surf. Man, it's been fantastic. And to be able to do that year round, I've been out wake surfing in December. I did go in January actually. So it's been really fun. I really, really enjoy it. And from a business perspective, it's not like a great rental market. So I think I'll keep buying rental properties in Indianapolis. It's actually cheaper for me to rent this place than it would be to buy it and pay the mortgage. The mortgage would be more expensive than what I pay in rent downtown. But there's so many entrepreneurs here. It's just a great energy to be around because there are so many entrepreneurs here. It's almost the default. And it's always good. You're always like the average of the 5 people around you, or maybe you're going to earn the average of the 5 people around you. And if you're around people that are earning more, have created wealth, through entrepreneurship, that's very positive. And I think that's just exciting to be around and certainly would help me on my journey.
Love it. Yeah. Have you read Tribe of Millionaires? That's another good one. He'd love. It's big on that. The whole like surrounding yourself and then just a bunch of other accountability. And yeah, I'll share that one too.
Thank you. Spot on. That's part of the 75 hard is to read 10 pages every day. So I actually read 15 books last year after reading probably like one the year before. And I really enjoyed that habit as well because it always feeds your mind positive things, right, on a daily basis, no matter what else is going on.
Yeah, that's probably a better way. You just summarized why I do Audible and listen to stuff, and I'll be whatever stressed out about something, but I'll go and listen, and then I'm like, mood completely changes, feeling way better, ready to go, new perspective.
Agreed.
Nice. Well, look, since you said that one, what would you say? Share the top book. I'm sure you got a ton of them, but what's the one that pop out from last year if you read that many?
Yeah, my favorite book was Humor Seriously, Why You Should Use Humor at Work and Not Be Afraid to Make Jokes, as long as your joke is not inappropriate. Even if it's not funny, people will think of you in a more confident way. And that's a proven scientific fact based on this book. So it really encouraged me to just have fun, make jokes, crack jokes, knowing that they don't even have to be funny. It takes the pressure off. It still has a positive result on how people see you. And especially in a leadership position, that enables like a much more relaxed culture, one where I'm having more fun, and one where my number 2 guy at Deal Machine says he's never had a more fun work environment ever in his whole life than the last 2 years at Deal Machine. And he even said, the way that you've loosened up over the past year, David, has just made me enjoy my job so much more. So keep doing what you're doing. So the one thing is, though, that the book was given to me by my assistant. And so I think that might have been an underhanded compliment that my jokes aren't very funny in the first place, because the cover said, if you're in charge and people are laughing, it doesn't necessarily mean your jokes are funny. So, but she promised it wasn't. She promised that it wasn't. She just thought I would.
Oh, that's good, man. Good stuff. All about culture, and yeah, that's cool. That's one I haven't heard of, and I could totally relate to that. Sweet, man. Last couple to wrap it up. Let's see. Yeah, easy one, or maybe different perspective, popular one. What's your thought on interest rates? How are you? What's your outlook? Maybe how it's changing how your plans or
mind-blowing news today. They just dipped below 6%, man, 5.9 as of this morning. And so that's really exciting. I would buy a deal no matter what the interest rates are, man, because if you take the last 20 years, the average interest rate is like 6-7%. And if the deal cash flows, I want it. There's never a perfect time to buy a rental property. Well, there might be, but you're going to wait around forever and you might miss it. It's like, so, that was what I was told at the beginning. To bring it way back to the beginning of this conversation, was my boss had 5 rental properties that he bought during 2008 when those prices dipped after the crash. And I obviously was getting the impression from him that there aren't as good of deals right now. And if I waited, I probably wouldn't have a single rental property. But thankfully, I didn't wait. And I've now got $160,000 in revenue per year from the rentals, and then have added $700,000 in equity. And so it's put me at a really nice equity position, as well as the cash flow. So I really think if you've got to buy good deals in any market condition.
Love it. Well, you kind of answered this question just now, but we'll tee it up in case you want to add anything else to it. So you've given a ton of nuggets on like how people can start and how people can utilize Deal Machine, and like how effective driving for dollars can be. Also just good perspective on like keeping things, stay in your lane, focusing on one thing. But yeah, what's the one thing you would give somebody who's kind of starting out, going into this environment with higher interest rates, and maybe in a down market, maybe somebody can always tell you a reason not to buy, not to do it. But what would you say to somebody getting started?
I would say if you're waiting for the perfect time, right? Is that the hesitation? It's like if you wait for the perfect time without the skill and the muscle of finding a deal, understanding how to talk to somebody, understanding, how to close that deal at a discount, then you're going to miss the window of opportunity. I would most definitely start looking for distressed properties, analyzing those deals, and making offers that make sense for the interest rates today that you would have to use. I wouldn't wait for a perfect time. There's a quote that, like, imagine you're going on a road trip and you wait for all of the stoplights to be green at the same time before you get started. You would never actually get started. And so that's always a great visual to remember, that you just need to take the very next step. You don't need to worry about all of the other steps to align perfectly, and you need to figure it out with what we call on-demand knowledge, right? Which is the ability to direct message you on Instagram with a question when it comes up, when I'm actually talking with the seller and have a real situation. And that's when the best learning is going to happen. So that's what I would encourage anyone listening to this, to do. I'm volunteering you, Casey, but I figured you wouldn't mind, is to, you're right, like DM you, like they should get started go look for distressed properties, go look for the rundown houses, start getting in touch with people. And when someone calls you back, go on the appointment. And when you have a question, DM Casey, be like, what do I do in this situation? Right? Do you have social media that they could do that on?
100%. Yeah, I'd love for people to do that. Because, yeah, it's like, you're spot on, David, because it's like, go out and do it. And then when you get to the point, ask questions. Because if I answer them all now or tell you how to do it all now, it's not going to matter. You're gonna have questions when you get in the middle of it. On-demand knowledge. I'm going to steal that one, David. I like that.
I'm glad you like that.
Yep, but 100%. Well, cool. Well, David's giving you guys a ton of tips, ton of nuggets. Also, again, created a great platform. And I'm telling you guys, the thing we didn't get into on Deal Machine is like, this is a great way to get started. You don't have to go buy a super expensive CRM, do all this money on these other marketing channels, do SEO. You can spend a lot of money, believe me, we've done it. You can spend a lot of money in marketing, or you can go do it kind of the hustle way, to where you go out, drive, find houses, find addresses, and market to them. So David's created a really cool way to get in. I would say low barrier of entry, but maybe, well, I mean, in terms of capital, you can get in and you could start doing this right away, right, David? Like, people can start driving, getting addresses, and mailing for not a whole lot of money, and get deals, right?
You can do it with pen and paper, and that costs $0. You can knock on their doors, and that costs $0. You could spend some money, use an app, and then have that mail sent for you. And I might say start that total cost all in might be $500, right? Because you want to find 200-300 properties. You want to send mail to each of them like 5 or 6 times over the course of a few months. So plan on spending $500 over the course of a few months. The app obviously makes it a little faster. So up to you guys. This is one of the lowest cost ways to go get a deal, and one that you could then flip to turn around and make $10,000. You know, if it's a deal, selling it to somebody like Casey, selling it to somebody like Habitat for Humanity, or selling it to one of those hedge funds out there that are trying to buy up a ton of real estate. And you've got options, and you can definitely get in without spending a lot of your money.
Love it. Cool. Well, you mentioned social media. David, where can people find you if they got questions they want to ask about fitness, getting six-pack abs, ask about Austin?
My Instagram is dlecko, DLECKO, and that would be a great place to connect with me. I've really been enjoying the community and posting there.
Yeah, awesome. Just like you said, you've been putting persistence into that, investing into that. That's how we kind of connected through Instagram. I love the stuff he's putting out. And yeah, I'd encourage you guys to do the same thing. And yeah, man, I'm excited to watch you, David. You're doing some cool stuff.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
As you may have learned by tuning into this episode of Gregor Sense, the easiest way to make real estate investing hard is by going at it alone. So as you continue learning and seeking knowledge of the industry, I want to encourage you to build relationships with other professionals who are passionate about real estate. Whether that's an agent, a business owner, or a managing investor like myself, there are pros that want to see you succeed and are willing to help you by sharing their experience. You can always reach me by visiting CaseyGregerson.com and scheduling a call. I look forward to connecting with you and continuing to share my experience with you here on Gregor Sense Mobile. Until next time, I'm Casey Gregerson. Thanks for tuning in.